I have some great news. I have just come off the phone to some of my contacts at MI5, and I'm delighted to confirm that these last 18 months were just one long global episode of Black Mirror. It was an idea concocted in 2017 by the show's creator, Charlie Brooker, together with the FBI, Mossad, and MI5, and funded by many of the powerful banking families who prefer to remain backstage. Anyone you have seen on your screens is an actor, including Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and all acting world leaders, politicians, and advisors. Charlie had no idea that it would progress as far as it has, with Austria this week announcing that of all places the government will start injecting people at gunpoint. At that stage, Charlie decided to call a halt to the experiment. You can all take off your masks, have some parties, hug and kiss each other, see your families and enjoy what life you have left. Don't worry about the vaccines or boosters. The narrative was crumbling beneath us, with doctors and health professionals letting the cat out of the bag, exposing all the holes in this story. Like Dr. Doshi of the BMJ, who recently revealed that the vaccines weren't actually vaccines, but instead they were drugs, which were mid-trial, with the data being withheld by the pharmaceutical companies. A small but growing minority realized early on about the importance of certain vitamins and other factors which reduced risk of serious illness and death, which is why we now recommend that you spend as much time as you can outside, especially if the sun is out, and top up with vitamins D, C, and zinc, as well as resume and increase loving contact with others, all of which can boost your immune systems. We will also be making various long-trusted medicines available, which have been used very successfully in various countries, including India, and can be taken as treatment and prevention. Governments will be providing these for free at a fraction of the costs of the injections. Over the next few days and weeks, you will be hearing from all of our splendid actors from around the world who pulled off the best performances in living memory. The production team were blown away by the sheer brilliance and professionalism of all the acts, no matter how bizarre the script was. Anthony Fauci was perfect for his part, with his unfaltering confidence even whilst contradicting himself about masks, vaccines and almost everything else. His chutzpah dismissing these accusations regarding the funding and the continuation of funding gain-of-function research at Wuhan was impressive. We were particularly impressed by the Australian acting team, including Dan Andrews, who never flinched once, even as they locked up the whole country because of one case in an elderly person, and who continued to act as if he knew anything about medicine and epidemiology, and as if his diktats were legitimate and were not the musings of a deluded tyrant. There was the acting genius of Canada's Justin Trudeau, who managed to get re-elected despite all of his conflicts of interests, convincing the majority of Canadians that he cared about their well-being, whilst taking away all of their hard-fought-for rights and acting like he was making the decisions when he was clearly taking orders from those above him in return for some princely sums. In Israel, we had Netanyahu and Bennett, both brimming with confidence, with Netanyahu creating the illusion that he was the Messiah by signing a deal with Pfizer, offering his citizens up as guinea pigs in the world's largest medical trial, as well as being the first country to impose that which he cunningly called the Green Pass, making it sound like it was a service that would keep Israel's citizens safe, when it was actually a slave pass. But the people had been so traumatized by the government messaging, they were happy to be slaves in return for safety, which the slave passes failed to provide in the end. Never mind, it's worth a try. The trial is ongoing, with lots of vaccinated people falling sick, and the passes being revoked unless you have had your booster. Bennett's acting career got off to a great start, as he, like other world actors, set the jabbed against the unjabbed, even though there is little science behind the suggestion that the unjabbed are a threat, as opposed to the governments. But acting has nothing to do with science. We had Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand, a graduate of the WEF, the World Economic Forum Acting School, otherwise known as Young Global Leaders Forum, pulling off one of the best female performances on the global stage, including calls from her mobile with her toddler in the background, cementing the perception that she was empathetic and compassionate, whilst destroying the lives of many of the citizens by taking away their basic rights because of a handful of so-called cases, as well as demonizing those who had the arrogance to disobey her orders and believed they should choose what to put in their bodies. It has been a pleasure watching her speak with such conviction that she herself believes she has legitimate power to remove and return people's basic rights, when in reality, the production team and some observers know that what she really is a talented actress who underneath is a power-hungry, deluded sociopath. Let's not forget the superb thespian Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson, better known by his stage name Boris Johnson, who convinced over 85% of UK adults to have the injection, even though he of course knows absolutely nothing about virology, medicine, science, or even the economy. There was no time for learning anything useful when he was at Oxford, as he was too busy taking drugs and alcohol, wrecking things at the Bullingdon Club meetings, and building his acting career at the Union. But boy did it pay off, because he worked out that acting is all that is required to be a politician. In fact, any knowledge gets in the way. He has restored our faith in the British acting profession, with his attention to detail down to his hair and charming buffoon-like character, which worked wonders in convincing the overwhelming majority that he knew what he was talking about, that he was actually running the country, and that he had legitimate power to lock everyone up under house arrest, when in fact he was just an actor. There are so many actors we haven't mentioned. Others will be thanked and honoured during the coming days and months, but we cannot leave out two of the top authoritarian acts. In second place was Michael Gunner, the Australian Northern Province's leader, who looked like he was about to explode as he branded anyone who did not support forced vaccinations as anti-vaxxers, implying that anti-vaxxers, whatever they are evil and should be hated and punished, which is a tad racist, really. But he has certainly convinced himself that he is in a position of knowledge to understand all the disciplines involved, to be so sure that he knows how best to deal with a global crisis like this, when in reality he's just a completely deluded fruitcake. And in first place, it has to be Alexander Schallenberg, Austria's Chancellor, who actually stood in front of the world's cameras, in Austria of all places, and introduced injections at gunpoint, and not one of the actors from all the other countries objected or protested. He was so convincing that nobody realised that not so long ago people were put on trial for forcing medications on people at gunpoint.
Bravo, what an act! A huge thanks to everyone who participated, especially to the chief medical officers in each country, who were also acting and deluding themselves into believing that they had enough knowledge and understanding of virology, biology, epidemiology, medicine, political science, health, psychology, economics, and complex global systems, and enough self-awareness to recognize their own conflicts of interest, to make a clear, informed decision that things like lockdowns would actually reduce overall mortality rather than increase it. There were, of course, many who died and others who suffered from illness over this time, but the average age of death was in the 80s and often affected people with comorbidities who are at risk anyway, as is the way of nature. Other factors included lack of vitamins and minerals, lack of exercise, poor diets, and stress-filled lives. There were, of course, a very small minority who died even though they may have taken good care of themselves. That is the nature of existence. And don't forget, all those that died in the past 18 months did not have to put up with the rest of this experiment, and will not have to live in fear of what our fragile future brings next. Yes, it is often sad for those left behind, but again, this is the circle of life, which can be brutal at times. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the moment.